welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be baking some brownies as part of my kind of, I don't want to say new year, new traditions, but part of my vision board was to do baking more because it does bring me joy, and who doesn't love to have sweet treats around the house to nibble on. So it's been my goal that every Sunday I'll be baking something, whether that is kind of like brownies, cookies, cinnamon buns, muffins, it can be anything, but the goal is to bake. So today we are making my brownies. So I will show you all the things you need and then we can get on into it. So these are the ingredients you'll need. Butter, you'll need some eggs, cocoa powder, some caster sugar, some plain flour, and then just some chocolate. It can be any chocolate you want. I just go for the dairy milk chocolate. And then equipment wise, so you need scales. Obviously, if you have a hand mixer or a stand mixer, great. I unfortunately don't, so a trusty old whisk for me. Spatula as well if you need anything. And then I have two bowls, one to do the actual mixing in, and that one's to do kind of the measuring and stuff like that. So yeah, oh, and obviously, an oven to actually do the cooking in. I know this angle isn't the greatest, but this is probably as good as it's going to work just because I don't have the biggest kitchen. Excuse all the mess that you can kind of see around. The other thing is apron. I'm a very messy baker, so if you have an apron, always wear one. This is the one we actually wore for my wedding, which I'm glad I did because the stains that was on this rather than my wedding dress was ridiculous. So I have a little recipe thing here. I'll list out everything, and in the description below I'll put all the measurements and stuff and baking temps and stuff like that. But essentially it's a pretty easygoing recipe. You don't need that many ingredients, and it's a lot of ingredients that you would normally just have if you do baking quite a lot. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to 180 degrees. I apologise because our oven is quite old, so if it starts to get really, really loud, I do apologise. There's not much I can do about it. Hopefully it won't be that disturbing. And then what I also have done is just a kind of oven proof dish, tin, whatever you need to use. I just line it baking parchment just because for me it's easier. I know you don't get the nice kind of smooth edges that some people like. You can always do the butter and cocoa powder method, but I personally don't like to risk it because I've had more fails than success. So yeah, that's just going off to the side, ready to be used. So the first things we do is we're going to weigh out our butter and our sugar, as is the first step for most things. I like to do the sugar first just because less likely for things to stick on the bowl. So for sugar, you're going to need 250 grams and just caster sugar. And I'm glad I brought another bag because I had a sneaky suspicion that that wasn't going to be enough, and it wasn't. So I'm glad I did that. You can always be sensible and actually just check. I don't do that. I like to think that I have stuff and then get a nice surprise when I don't actually have it. As you can hear, the oven is now whirred up, so I really apologise if it's loud and you can't hear as well. Oh, that was way too much now. Take out a good helping. Oh, so close. There we go. That is our sugar all weighed out, so that can just go in my big bowl that I have off to the side here. And now butter. So if I know I'm going to be baking, I leave the butter out just so it softens up. It also means that because I don't have a hand mixer or stand mixer, it makes it easier for me to actually mix it all together, because if you've got rock solid butter, it's really not nice to try and hand mix it with just a whisk. So butter, you're gonna need 180 grams. And again, I just like using Stork brand when I'm baking. You can use any brand you have, just needs to be unsalted. Oh. there's quite a few recipes that I have in mind that I want to be doing, but if anyone has kind of any recommendations or stuff like that, we are more of a kind of chocolatey based household. Not really a big fan of things with like fruit and stuff like that. But any suggestions on recipes, please do let me know, because we're always excited to try new things. I recently discovered Jane's Patisserie, which has been quite good actually. I've made a cookie recipe from her website, which has been really nice. And I'm planning on remaking it for Valentine's Day, so I'll definitely record that and show you that one, because they are really good cookies. That is the butter. We're just going to, we're not going to do that actually, because the butter gets melted. So once you've weighed your butter out, we're just going to pop it in the microwave until it's all melted. So you just want to put the butter in for about 30-second blasts. That's roughly what I do. Just keep an eye, you don't want to burn the butter, because then that makes a horrible flavour for the actual bake itself. If you've got just small lumps of butter, don't blast it again in the microwave. If you just take it out and stir it. I had some lumps earlier. I'm trying to show you without spilling it everywhere. Can't. But it's all smooth now because the heat will just melt the residual stuff. So if you've got a few little lumps, don't bother putting it in for another burst. Just give it a little mix and it should all hopefully melt. So then that just all goes in as well with the sugar. And then we're going to give that just a little mix. So what you should end up with is a consistency kind of like this. You can see it's quite thick and it's all combined and lovely. So now to this we are going to add in our eggs. So this recipe calls for 2 eggs. What I like to do is I like to mix in one at a time. Mix that in so it's all combined and then add the next one. This is stabbing the yolk. And just give it a good mix around. That to me is combined enough. So next what we add is the melted chocolate. So as I said, you can use any type of chocolate you want, white chocolate, dark chocolate, caramel, whatever you want. I typically just go for the plain dairy milk. So you need 200 grams, but what I normally do is I normally get the smaller packs, which are 110 grams. You've got a little bit extra chocolate, but who really cares about that? So what you want to do is you want to split it. So 100 grams gets melted, and then the other half goes in as chunks into the mixture. Just makes it really chocolatey and fudgy and just really good. So this is going to get cut up into little pieces and flipped in the microwave. So similarly with the butter, I normally do it on 30-second blast, because again you don't want to burn it. Obviously depending on what type of chocolate you use, you'll have to do more or less. So obviously just keep an eye on it, do the increments that you think is suitable. Pour the chocolate in, and I'm going to give it a good mix. Same kind of rules apply with the butter. If you've only got a few little chunks of chocolate that are kind of left unmelted, again if you take out and mix it, you'll likely find that the chocolate will melt. So now you should have kind of still quite a thick consistency. As you can see, everything's combined. Now we will start adding all of our dry ingredients. So that is our cocoa powder and plain flour. Cocoa powder can be any brand, that doesn't have anything fancy. You want just 35 grams of this, and then we also just want only 90 grams of flour. I also forgot to mention we are just going to add like half a teaspoon of salt, just to kind of cut through all of that sweetness. So I got my mixture in here, literally dumping it straight onto a sieve, and then mixing it all in. Now we're just going to fold it all in. Again, at this point you don't want to really over mix it, because then you are going to affect the consistency of the bake. So just lightly folding it in. Again, it shouldn't take too long, just because obviously you've got quite a lot of liquid compared to the dry ingredients. So this is your mixture. As you can see, it's all included. quite a nice thick mixture. So the only thing left to do is add in the chocolate chunks from the rest of our chocolate. So I've just added the chocolate chunks in, as you can see, and you don't want it to be too overfilled with chocolate chunks. Obviously that's going to affect the integrity and the structure of the bake. So you just want a few, they will melt and ooze out, and the mixture itself is all ooey and gooey. But this is what you should end up looking like. So this is what it should look like, all very nice. And this is going to go in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how kind of baked you like them. I prefer them on the oozier side, and then it will just be letting them cool in the tin and then cutting. So these are what the brownies look like once I've taken them out. They're all rock solid. Let's get them out and cut them. So this should be your final result. All nice and ooey gooey. I cut them into 9s, you can cut them smaller, but I think that's a good batch size. And yeah, these will just go in a Tupperware tub, and they should last about 4 or 5 days.